fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's got rid of the outside of both of them. Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson. Anderson's up top here.
Oh my God! Oh, big crash. Oh my goodness, half the field's going to get involved.
Second very close. These guys are going to want to make their way through the field very quickly.
Oh, here we go. Oh no!
That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my God!
God, what?
This is your chance to get behind the wheel. The opportunity to race just like the pros. From the grassroots levels, where we all got our start, to the most popular race cars on the planet. From the fairgrounds of Nashville to the high banks of Daytona, to tracks that will never be forgotten. Realistic driving, intense competition, all from the comfort of your own home. This is the ultimate motorsports simulation. This is iRacing. This is the world's premier online racing simulation. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat from your home computer with the most realistic online motorsports experience you'll find anywhere. Race virtually in the world's biggest events with officially licensed series, cars, and tracks. From the high banks of Daytona to the blistering speeds of Indianapolis, the dirt of Eldora to the world's most legendary road courses. It's all here, and with more than 180,000 people just like you already driving, you'll always have someone to race. Ready to get behind the wheel? Sign up at iRacing.com to get started.
Motorsport is an international phenomenon, and here at Silverstone, this is its beating heart, its epicenter. This is where great racing comes to life. And here, when it comes to sim racing, it is your Porsche Heuer Esports Supercup qualifying series. It is round 2 and time to lay the gauntlet down. After the opening round at the Hockenheim Ring, this is a place where drivers who didn't have a good race in their opening forays need to find great results today. For those who did get great results, they now have to recover and make sure that their results today continue to see the same form, the same vein as they would do earlier on. Here with SimSpeed TV, we bring you this coverage, and it is uninterrupted as we run ourselves through the 9 turns of the international layout, 3.62 kilometers and 9 turns on the lap. Jake Sperry here along with Jay Kennedy, bringing you all of the action. Jay, every time we come here, this is a special place. There is no other place in the United Kingdom where greater racing happens, and this is going to be a very telling qualifying and race for round 2 of 6 of this qualifying series.
Yeah, hello everybody and good morning wherever you're watching around the world. It's going to be very, very fun. It's a great track, and as you said, it's a place like no other we've seen since the re-release of Silverstone on the new layout. That it's provided even better racing than we saw in previous iterations of the track. But this layout is quite unique, a shortened version where we cut off half of the circuit, but it doesn't take away any true passing opportunities. We do lose one, but we gain one back, which means that this could provide some brilliant racing, some brilliant overtakes throughout this very, very short 9-turn circuit.
Exactly, and it's going to be a tactical battle out there today here at Silverstone, as it was earlier on 1 week ago. So there is still a whole heap to keep your eyes focused on. It will be 28 laps today, and they know that it is going to be 28 laps straight. They do not have to make a pit stop. This is, though, how the championship looks jumping in. Luke Bennett in control, 428 points, one of the highest ever strengths of fields. An average of 8,500 was enough to get him the victory ahead of Lasso back in second. The second split was almost as strong, which is very seldom you get to hear that. So Kevin Nielsen finds himself third in the championship with Luke Kita fourth and Kim Gyu-min in 5th position. Simone Maria Marcheno 6th. Tim Jarshall 7th, Mohamed Ibrahim in 8th, Jersey Glack in 9th position, and Han Jae-hee rounds out the top 10. That is probably going to be the biggest points haul we'll see all season. But as you can keep an eye out on, Jay, I do believe we have 11 through 20 as well. And it just shows you how close the top of the table is.
Yeah, I think I've messed up the graphic for the other one, but yeah, it's very, very tight. And that 11th through 20th, we'll keep an eye on over the next couple of weeks as well, because that's very, very important as we gear up towards the end of the championship. Top 15 make their way through into the main event coming forward in only, what, 5 more rounds time. It's not going to take long before we get to the championship finale in only a couple of weeks.
Yeah, and we've already had qualifying go through, so let's run through the grid to see how everyone stacks. Lasse back on pole position, then a 102.875 will have Valentin Mandenack alongside for company. Alexander Spets, part of the 10K club, goes from 3rd position with Matthias Stolbeck Jensen in 4th position on the grid. It's all German on the 3rd row. Andre Melcher's had a great race last time out, and he has got someone who is no stranger to real-world racing as well, Moritz Löchner, who is there in 6th position. He drives from time to time in DTM. Gustavo Ariel starts 7th with David Bosga in 8th position. Kevin Nielsen starts 9th. He's 3rd in the championship. And Gabby Montoro rounds out the top 10. Juan Blainat will go from 11th along with Kaike Oliveira on the 6th row of the grid. Then over to row 7, Damon Woods and Laurent Benso find themselves there. Dylan Burst will go from 15th position along with Christian Lamella in 16th. Oscar Mangan has been a driver who has been in and around sim racing for over a decade. He starts from 17th with Dylan Scrivens in 18th position overall. 19th will be Valtteri Alander, and the top 20 rounded out by Matthias Jensen. Elias Reichert starts 21st with Maggio Hansen 22nd. Nicholas Laubisch making his first start here in top split action. He starts in 23rd position with Michael Janney in 24th. It's a 28 car field today with Christopher Danbeats 25th, Oscar Irina 26th, Toby Serrano 27th, and surprisingly, Simone Maria Marcheno, after a great round 1, can't back up the goods, is down at the back then in 28th position. But these drivers know there's 28 laps, 101 kilometers, no required pit stops, and we're just about ready to get the green flag ready and going. There is going to be one driver in trouble. That's Matthias Jensen, who will not take the start. Green flag in the air. We're underway. It's a horrible start off the front from Valentin Mandenack, and there's almost contact immediately there as Matthias Stolbeck Jensen tried to find a way through Alexander Spets. Lucky he's still got the car pointing in the right way and is going to try and get 2nd position here. We'll have to go around the outside into the village corner, but that's always going to be difficult on this 90-degree run. The brilliant R8G car of Mandenack holds the position, and look at the middle of the pack there, Jay. Absolutely scrapping for it as they run in through the chapel for the first time.
Yeah, a little bit of contact there. Melcher's a little bit of contact to the front of his car, but it looks like it's got away unscathed. At the back of the field, Simone Maria Marcheno is around. He's losing a lot of ground, but it's battle for 3rd, 4th, 5th. Very, very intense. But Lasse back, he's just broken away from the field and broken the hearts of half of the drivers in this field.
Well, he got away from corner number 1, and that's what's left life very difficult. A bit of side-by-side as Gustavo Ariel has to defend from Kevin Nielsen, the likes of Gabby Montoro, then scrapping with Juan Blainat here in the middle of the pack, and Blainat trying to hold that inside line through club corner and getting onto the Sir Lewis Hamilton straight and trying to make something happen. Moritz Lerner looking at this, and Dylan Burst has got the absolute popcorn view. He's going to try and drive the Vendaval sim racing car over to the inside to give as much of an opportunity there. Lerner still trying to find an angle to the inside. He still can't get there.
Look at the gap Lasse back's already got. Mandenack's had a little bit of a gap back to the 3rd, 4th, and 5th, but he's already lost all of that ground that he had. He's now got this train snaking its way behind him. I love that this layout bunches the field up. There's no chance to breathe. There's no chance to rest. You have to push, and push hard from corner 1 all the way to the end of the lap.
Yeah, you absolutely do. I was just trying to work out who spun on the opening lap of the race. It might have been Kaike Oliveira who was in the wrong position, and it was. So there was the dramas going through, and contact there, and it didn't look good for number 10 out there. Damon Woods just keeps it out of the gravel. We'll be able to keep that going, but it looked like there was a lot of distance between them there on that hit, and that would have been very unfortunate for him.
Yeah, just the nature of this sort of racing, isn't it? When it's so tight, so compact, so intense, you have those sort of incidents happen. It's unfortunate to see, but Damon will keep fighting back. Interesting that Valtteri Alander has had an issue, hasn't registered a lap time, and with that spin earlier on, Simone Maria Marcheno has suffered mechanical black flag, and he is out of the race as well.
Yep, so a black flag, not much you can do. The black and orange flag as it is, as we take a look from the rear of Valentin Mandenac then in second position for R8G Esports. That's the team that Romain Grosjean has. The IndyCar driver behind him is going to be Alexander Spets, 10K. Part of Williams Esports. Behind that, the Apex Academy driver, Matthias Stolbeck Jensen, who is there. Andre Melcher's another R8G driver. Then Gustavo Ariel, and then the fire car of Kevin Nielsen will be in the mix, trying to chase on down what is a very, very important stage of this race. Lap 4 of 28, the gap at the front, 1 second at this point in time, and it's crucial to note that Mandenac took 0.08 of a second off that last time by. Seems like absolutely nothing, that gap, Jay, he's managed to close down. But if he is really pushing at this point in time, he can reel back in Lasse back, and he might still have a race for the victory today.
Yeah, sure. It might only be 0.08, but then that's a tenth, give or take. He's only at 0.9 back, so that won't take long for that gap to close. It's one minor error for Lasse back to make, and he's closed that gap in. One slowdown penalty, which is quite easy to get at this layout as well. You can find yourself cutting those corners quite aggressively. Find yourself trying to find a 10th, but it can cost you extra time if you do cut the corner a little bit too aggressive. And I'll tell you what, he's done a very, very good job on the exit there. He started to break the gap to those guys behind, and he's gained just over a 10th on that lap.
Yeah, and just a 10th will be enough. He's got now a 6/10 buffer to Alexander Spets. Came 0.3 of a second on him on that last lap. So a really critical phase of the race right now, as the group, you could say at this point, probably stretches back to Nicholas Laubish at this point in time in 15th position. They're all in that sort of element of range, and then you've got a secondary group that follows on immediately after that. So it's a big train at the moment, and it has a risk at this point of uncoupling around David Bozka at this point in time. But there's the number 24 Urano Esports car, who is trying to run down Oscar Mangan just in front. So there are definitely availabilities to make overtakes, but you're having to be careful. Mandenac in range now of Lasse back at the front of the field, and drivers just poking their nose out a little bit here, Jay. No one really wanted to go for a move right now because they don't want to risk losing the draft. It's such a competitive series.
And we talked last week as well that you don't want to make a move that costs you positions as well. You want to make sure of the moves before you make them, because if you do go for a move, lose out, it could be detrimental to getting yourself into that top 15. So right at the point end of the field, we probably won't see a huge amount of overtakes, but later on in the race, that mid-pack, it's going to start getting feisty and start getting aggressive as some drivers start to get very, very desperate to make moves. Stolbeck Jensen there, a little bit tardy coming onto the hanger straight, but he's going to hold on to the spot. But you want to be careful with that run out of the shortcut there, because if he doesn't get through that quite as well as others around him, he will find himself vulnerable at the end of the hanger straight.
He will find himself vulnerable, and of course the run into Stowe Corner is the prime place to get a move done on this circuit. So if you can get yourself alongside at Stowe as we go on board with Gustavo Ariel in the Texaco car, he will now try and figure out, okay, what do I need to do to bring myself into a position where I can make that move? And he is part of a thriving Brazilian sim racing scene right now here, Jay.
100%. It's been a bit of a Brazilian invasion. Also been an invasion from the guys from Denmark as well. We were talking pre-race about how many guys there are in the top 20. The top two nationalities in the top 20 are the UK and Denmark, which is amazing to see. And Korea are also making a very, very strong representation in the series too.
Yeah, they've got two drivers inside the top 10 of South Korea, so that really does show you how well they've been doing in that opening round. And from the rear of Andre Melchers, you can see how close Ariel gets through Stowe Corner, pick up the run off of the exit, slight drop down the hill. There's not much elevation change at Silverstone. This is a former airfield after all, and that run down at Stowe is probably one of the only bits that you get around a track like this. And then running through that final section, the double apex battle. There is Oscar Mangan in a scrap, and now the group behind him, Maggio Hansen in a bit of a scrap here because he's got Christian Lamela who is there. Dylan Scrivens is also in the mix, as well as Elias Riker. So this is going on 18th, 19th, 20th, 21st. And to get this right, they're only 10 seconds off of the lead right now. It's incredible.
Yeah, out of our 26 drivers that are still going on, all separated by 14 seconds. So incredibly tight field the whole way through. No big gaps, no one out there driving by themselves at this stage, which is great to see. But this battle pack, I just noticed it on the timing screen. It's sort of been flashing up that there's a little bit going on here. So might be worth a watch. And these are important positions. Could be the difference between getting yourself 100 points and 150 points, which could be enough for one driver to get through and or miss out.
Christian Lamela having a little search, but it was just that, a search, but running a little bit heavy over the curb. They've got to be careful about that, and they will know as well that they have to adhere to the track limits during this race here, Jay. They have, as is with every iRacing race, 17 instant points before a drive-through penalty, and at 25 instant points, it's disqualification.
Yeah, exactly right. And you want to make sure that you use them wisely. We saw last round at Hockenheim that a lot of drivers were saving them for the just in case at the end of the race. You want to make sure that you've got them in the bank for contact if it does happen, or if you do need to, run a little bit wider and defend a position, just use that off track a little bit to your advantage. I'll tell you what, this is a great run from the Mallory. He might be close enough to get a move done, and yeah, Hansen's trying to defend this, but he's doing it the difficult way, and he could find himself susceptible, not here, but coming up into the final complex of corners.
Yeah, has to go shallow then, running in through Stone. This opens up the door for Christian Lamela. He's trying to figure out a way through, but again, a stalwart defense to the inside. Lamela's going to have to take the road hard travel around the outside, opens up the door at Club on the inside line, and it's wonderfully done. It's not over, though, because the power on the exit's going to be key, and it's going to be pushed off the side of the road. Scrivens now is going to be in the middle of this as well, and this is a really nice fight. Lamela down the inside. Scrivens is going to follow, and he's going to take the place, and all of a sudden, Elias Riker around the outside of turn 2 is also going to pick one up. Then Maggio Hansen has got a slow down penalty that he's desperately trying to serve right now, and Christopher Danbeat is going to try and capitalise, but the penalty's already served, and the position is spared here at Chapel.
And that started from the poor run out of this corner on the previous lap, then the not great defence down the straight. He probably would have been smarter in hindsight just to give up the spot. I'll tell you what, it's not done. Danbeats might lose the spot here.
Yeah, Danbeats then looking at this in the Red Bull car. He's going to have to look at that inside line to cover it off, because that's Toby Serrano who's trying to find his overtake, and he can't quite manage it at the moment. Again, we'll have to go to the outside trying to cover it off, but Danbeats so late on the brakes, covers off the position, and suddenly Michael Janney might want to come in, and Kaike Oliveira, they're all in the mix. Speaking of in the mix, gap for the first time at the front of the field here, Jay, who's come under half a second. Valentin Mandanak has done very, very well to claw down the gap. He's got Spets just behind him, and they are just starting to think about, okay, when is the right time to strike? We didn't see an overtake for the race lead over at the opening round of the championship at the Hockenheim ring, but Mandanak is the sort of driver who I saw back in the Dallara IR Racing Series that really would love to go and make an overtake and make something happen. And speaking of something happening here, Andre Melchers loses out. Gustavo Ariel is through.
Yeah, surprising move. It came from nowhere. So caught me a little bit off guard to try and show it on screen. We'll see if we can pick it up on the replay. As we said, we're not going to see a huge amount of overtakes at the front of the field. It's no real surprise when you see the point structure that not too many overtakes. I tell you what, Melchers was trying to defend that, and Ariel was like, no, I'm going through, I don't care.
It was very much, the defence was there, but it was a case of leaving the door half open if you really wanted to go to the inside. Gustavo Ariel did, and he took the place, and he hasn't lost too much time to Stolbeck Jensen, who is in 4th position. So it's a really good overtake, and it's worked quite nicely just behind him then is Kevin Nielsen, who is trying to figure out to get some great points. Remember, he won Split 2 last week at Hockenheim and has shown he's really got pace. He's up in 7th position right now. That, again, will be great points to add on in his championship work for the Heuer Esports Sports car.
And he's gained spots as well in that start phase as well. So he's up to 7th, started in 9th. So all forward progression for him in this one. Still a bit of side-by-side going on in this secondary group here. We got in this one.
Nicholas Laubisch then is having to really defend from Oscar Irina and Valtteri Alander. So the two Heuer Esports cars trying to figure out a pass on the Urano machine. But at least at this point in time, these Porsche 911s, 992 spec that they are, heavy defense on the inside from Laubisch. Oscar Irina is the biggest mover in the field. He's up 10 spots in this race so far, from 26th to 16th. He wants to be up 11 for his race, move up to P15.
Laubisch is up 8 though, so he doesn't want to give up any spots. He's already made a lot of forward progression, just ahead too. Here we go. Here's a potential move here. Benzo is going to lose a spot. Oscar Mangan through, up into 13th.
Yeah, the Monaco Esports car then being overtaken, and that a very, very nice move from Oscar Mangan using all of the experience, and it is on for the race lead. Lasse back, then we'll have to look behind at Valentin Mandenack, who's got the gap down from 1 second in this race. It's taken him half the race to pull that to 0.2 of a second, but the R8G Esports car has got to figure out the right way to make the pass, thinks about it, but is not quite in the right position here at this point in time. Has to try and work out a way past the Heuer Esports Sports leading machine of Lasse back. But through this section, you can see how they run over that little bit of curbing, which indicates the Grand Prix track onto what is the track we're using today, the International.
It's amazing how aggressive they are in regards to those track limits. Here comes Jensen up the inside. That's come from nowhere as well. Little error, obviously, from Spitz. And side by side, forcing him to use one of those off-track penalties. And he's going to hold on to the spot, but a little bit aggressive there. I like to see it. It's good to see that we're seeing some real fighting at the front this week.
Well, they were at risk of losing ground here to Valentin Mandenack. Yep. I don't blame Matthias Stockbait Jensen for making that move. He had to try and figure something out. It hasn't quite worked, and that's the caveat. They're now at a second and could be dropping back further. So there are those worries at this stage. They run through. Gustavo Ariel just watching in the wings in 5th position, thinking about the move, up then into position number 4 potentially, and the train is only going to stack up behind that with the likes of Nielsen, Montoro, Blainat, Moritz Lerchner, who is down there in 10th position. Dylan Burse is in this in 11th. So that train is going to be important, and battling further back as well, as I believe that is Toby Serrano, who's going and trying to defend the position right now from the likes of Johansson and Gianni and Kike Oliveira.
Yeah, this pack's got messy at the back. We said that the back of the field was going to be where all the action would be seen, because they'd just be fighting over every single point. And up the inside there, Serrano's just gone through. He came from nowhere.
He did, but it's not done yet. Still has to get it done through the veil and into clubs. So Toby Serrano, contact, round you go. And there goes Mats Johansson on the wrong end of it as he went through. It's such a difficult set of switchback corners left into right. And it has opened up the door then as Gianni will lose out to Kike Oliveira.
Finally got themselves back in a single file after a full lap of side-by-side. And there'll be a little bit of heartbreak within that Apex team. Oh, no.
There's a big, big issue there. Rena's gone around. There's someone else who's gone around as well to the left-hand side. That's Christian Lamella, who has pulled the car away. And it was all contact with Laubisch as they were just coming through turn number 3 at the farm section. So over at Village, it was a case of going through turn 2 into 3. Laubisch had already lost the position to Valtteri Alander at that point in time, leaning on each other a little bit through 3. And you can see as they push in, there's the contact. Lamella gets caught up in it and also finds himself on the wrong end as he pretty much gets dumped to the escape road.
Unfortunate that that's happened and it's ended in disaster, but the nature of this sort of racing, always going to happen when the points are so vital down in that lower end. You're always going to see a bit of aggression come out as the race gets towards the finale. Disappointing to see that we've lost a couple extra drivers, but at the front, still 3.5 tenths of a second for the lead. Still tight.
It is still tight. You're absolutely correct. And Mandanark's just being patient at this point in time. Doesn't have to make the move immediately. He can just suss out where he wants to make that happen and get that overtake on board with Matthias Stockbait Jensen as he tries to figure out a pass on the Williams Esports driver of Alexander Spets just in front of him. Denmark versus Sweden as they run now through to start another lap on the Lewis Hamilton straight and look to go to lap 18. What will be key as well, come the final lap of this race, lap 28, Jay, is it's a really short run to the finish line.
And we've seen a lot of side-by-side out of the final couple of corners that's resulted in photo finishes. We've seen contact at that point as well, which can also force a slowdown penalty, which is then applied as a time penalty post-race. So you want to make sure that you're single file coming out of there. If you're side-by-side on the outside, you can find yourself in a little bit of trouble. You got to trust the driver on your inside to not cause an issue and force you back in the field.
And trust is so important amongst these, I would say, professional sim racing drivers. They go through, if you get yourself up over 7,000 iRating, you treat this as if you're a professional at this point in time. And just off the back, Laurent Benso trying to hold on, at least at this point in time. Here is Alexander Spet as they run through the left and the right once again, holding back the train, but crucially not losing any time to the two in front, which I think is part of the reason why Mandanark doesn't want to make a move, because Lasse Bach hasn't at this stage been given that license to go out and say, break away, we need to fight. They're at 10 laps to go at this point in time, and this is far from over, I would say, for the entirety of the top 10.
Not just the top 10, I think there's only probably one driver out there at the moment who's in a bit of no man's land. Literally, I can't even speak this morning. It's way too early. Alander in P15. He's the only driver with no one in front, no one behind. So he's the only driver that probably doesn't have a settled, that does have a settled position at the moment. Everyone else could change.
Everyone else could, and that could be vital in terms of this race. Again, into Stowe, goes 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th. Now, how would you, in terms of being 7th, 8th position in this train, Jay, try and make that move if you're a Gabby Montour, if you're a Juan Blainat, for example?
I don't think you do. I think you just have to sit and hope that the guys ahead of you run into an issue, because if you try a move, it not only will cost you a position, it'll cost you the whole group, and then it throws everyone out, makes everyone more desperate behind. I tell you what, that was a nice slide in the background there from Oscar Mangan out of the final corner. I don't think you can afford to try and make a move. You can't try and force something that doesn't happen at this stage. You almost have to try and encourage the driver in front of you to try and make a move rather than make a move yourself. You almost want to, not quite bump draft, but almost force them to feel pressure from behind. So not necessarily make a move for likes of Nielsen and Montero, but get close enough that the guy in front of you is starting to worry about what's happening and may then either make an error in how he's driving the car himself, or try and force a move that isn't there to be made, and then you'll find yourself positions.
This is what the hours of practice have gone into, lap after lap after lap, making sure that they are in the right position when they get into this scenario, that they are race ready to try and score as many points as they possibly can, find an extra position here or there. 8 laps to go here at Silverstone, and they know, at least in the middle of the group, it's going to be on. It is absolutely on. Further back through, Elias Riker trying to go around the outside of Oscar Irina. Behind that is Kaike Oliveira, Damon Woods and Michael Janney in a scrap. They're going to go then to turn 1 at Abbey, and around the outside, Elias Riker will get it done.
Beautiful, holding it on around the outside. Didn't think it was going to be able to happen, but he's done a very, very good job. And Ryan now trying to get back through. Oliveira there trying to get through as well. Damon Woods, remember, he's on the recovery after that incident earlier on in the race. He was in about 13th or 14th position, now finds himself in 23rd, so he'll be devastated with that and try and get himself forward as it's back on again. This is almost like it's a replay.
Almost as if around the outside tries Oscar Irina as 13 and 14, two finished drivers, battle it out, hammer and tongs in towards the Vale and Club corners, and room having to be given by Oscar Irina there. Riker was pretty resolute on the brakes and covering it around the outside. Irina will hold off Riker, but that just brings the group back in, and it also brings Mads Johansson back into play, which is crucial for his points.
Very, very crucial indeed. So it's going to be an interesting little finish to the race within that group. Go back to the front. The front of the pack did stretch out to about half a second, but it has closed back into 0.3. And that second group is starting to close in on the leaders once more. So Lasseback is not having this as easy as he would like. We remember last week we were talking about a little bit of tyre conservation needed to make sure the rears would hold up. Well, this race this week is 20 kilometers longer than last week. So making sure your rear tires are still there at the end, very, very important. Track conditions, fairly warm. So making sure that there's still tire underneath you with 5, 6, 7 laps to go, very, very crucial. Some drivers may have pushed it a little bit too hard too early.
Or some drivers are just timing it right, because Alexander Spets is leading the train back in to 0.8 of a second now, and with 6 laps to go, if he can take 0.2 of a second at a time, he's going to be right there with about 3 laps to go, hounding the back of Valentin Mandenac and the Heuer Esports car. So this is not going to be as plain sailing as you think it's going to be, as just behind that, the group is starting to fragment here around Gabby Montoro, Juan Blainat and Moritz Lerner. They're not able to hold the same pace that Kevin Nielsen is.
Very true. They've broken what they've lost about 7, 8 of a second. So they were all nose to tail not that long ago, but that pack has fractured. What that could do, then we may see someone get a little bit desperate in that secondary pack to try and make sure that they continue to keep in the battle. We saw that not that long ago, didn't we? When we saw Stolbach Jensen try and get through, couldn't do it. And that did fragment the pack. So we could see that again in this next group as well.
We certainly could. The gap goes back out to a second between second and third position. And now the looks to the inside. Gustavo Ariel's got a big look to the inside, and there he is trying to get past Stolbach Jensen. Not going to find it. He's on the wrong side of it, moving through the small kink left, which leads into Chapel. So troubles there. It almost opened back up for Andre Melchers. And we know as well here, Jay, that Melchers loves a great overtake. We saw it time and time again at Hockenheim. He was so good at it. A little defense then from Gustavo Ariel. Did not feel confident, and it just closes the group back up again. Kevin Nielsen might want to get in on the act.
Melchers was the one driver in the field last week that was ultra aggressive in his overtakes. Wasn't worried about what was happening in regards to points, position, or whatever. He just wanted to overtake every single opportunity, and that secondary group is definitely fragmented as they're now side by side. Barcelona up the inside, and he's going to get this move done, you would think, although we've seen around the outside work. Dylan Burst not far away from getting in this one too.
The Heuer Esports driver trying to get it done, and wide off the road, and troubles then going for Juan Blainat. One mistake and it costs him majorly in terms of this race, because that'll be 3 positions that he will lose, because that is one of the Williams drivers there, David Bozka, who's going to go through. So that then is a very, very important pass, and that's 3 positions gone for the cost of pretty much nothing at turn number 1. Not a place you'd expect to lose that much time.
No, he just went in a little bit too hard, thinking that he was going to have to go side by side, and probably didn't notice initially that Lerner had let him through and given up the spot, wasn't stressed about trying to make a move. And that may have just been a minor distraction that was all that's caused there. Melchers still looks the most likely to make moves, though, in this pack, doesn't he? He's ready to pounce. He's ready to throw one up the inside. I wouldn't be surprised at the end of this lap if we see an overtake.
3 laps to go, though, so if you're going to start making moves, now's the time. You've got to start eyeing them up and making them happen. Here is Andre Melchers then as he runs through towards turn 3. Covered off nicely then over at Village. They will take the Aintree corner left and then flick right in through Chapel and run forward once again onto the Hanger Straight and over towards Stowe corner. This is where we're seeing most of the moves happen, and they have just split into groups of 2. Here, there, 2, 4, 6, and 8. That's really where we're seeing the overtakes more likely to happen here, Jay.
Yep, exactly right. Splitting into groups of 2, 2 by 2. Noah's Ark style racing happening now. And as you say, I wouldn't be surprised as well if we see a bit more side by side with the fact that they've split into groups of 2. So it does encourage drivers. It gives a little bit of an ego boost knowing that they may not lose a spot behind. If they've got a chance of an overtake without as big a risk of losing a spot if they don't get it done, does make the ambitions levels go up a little bit. 2 laps to go though. Not much racing left. Only 6 kilometers.
My eyes didn't deceive me there. Melcher's had the wipers going
Yep.
on the car. Again, looking, and has a look just in front as well. Everyone is searching for moves right now. Melcher's can't get it done around the outside. Stockbait Jensen. Matthias Stockbait Jensen's trying to find a way past Alexander Spetz, trying to open up the exit, and he has done as well. Suddenly hard to the inside will go the Williams Esports driver. Here comes the Apex Academy driver on the outside. Matthias Stockbait Jensen. Can he finally get past Alexander Spetz on the outside of Stowe with 2 or 1.5 laps to go, maybe even a bit less? He is going to get it around the outside. What a pass!
Beautiful overtake. Well done. Well deserved overtake. It's taken him 26.5 laps to do it, but he's finally got there. And that was just from a little bit of an ambitious dive, a little bit of guts and determination up through Village, and he's got it done and all the way down the other half of the track. It's been a brilliant bit of driving. 1 lap to go. Will we see something happen for the lead? Still 0.2 of a second separating first and second. I don't think Mandernach's going to risk a position, but you never know.
I'm going to completely disagree with you. He's been closing in, trying to wait on the perfect chance to strike. And Valentin Mandernach has played a very, very shrewd and patient game. Lasse Bach has been keeping an eye on that gap every time they're on the straight. And for the first time, it's the middle of the road. He goes through, but now he moves back to the racing line because he feels he's safe into Stowe. Mandernach gets in the mirror, tries to find a distraction as he runs through all the way up to the back bumper. But here comes the understeer, and now he's going to struggle to find that pass in at the Vale. That's going to be the final place. You're going to get it done. Everyone's searching for the move, but it's covered by Lasse Bach, who, if he can keep it on the island, and he does, he has driven a consummate drive from the front. Fire Sim Sports will get their first win, and a win for Lasse Bach that he can be happy with. It's second for Mandernach. Matthias Stockbait Jensen will take 3rd position overall in what was a crucially strong race at the front. And I tell you what, that first corner pretty much set the tone for the entirety of the race.
And Lasse Bach didn't have the best pace out of everyone in the race, but he just did a great job in qualifying and did a great job at the start of the race to get clear. And the fighting of the guys around him cost them all so much time and just meant that Lasse Bach could control the race. Well done, beautiful drive, and a well-deserved win.
A well-deserved win, a fantastic win, and that will put him with no Luke Bennett today. It is worth saying that at this point in time. It will put him top of the championship, moving in towards round 3 and the halfway stage. So for this, Lasse Bach picks up the win, 29 minutes, 49 seconds, and wins by 0.3 of a second over Valentin Mandernach in second position. Matthias Stockbait Jensen getting the move done with 2 to go, moves up with a very, very great 3rd place finish, and Alexander Spetz will take 4th position overall. Gustavo Ariel, he will finish 5th, along with Andre Melchers in 6th position, losing 1 place in the race. Kevin Nielsen would gain 2, is up into 7th position, with Gabby Montoro finishing in 8th. Moritz Löchner will finish in 9th position, and Dylan Burst, the Australian, will round out the top 10, just 5 seconds adrift of your overall winner. That shows you how close the top 10 were today. David Bosga, the Belgian, will finish off in 11th, with Juan Blainat losing places late, dropping himself down to 12th, just ahead of Laurent Benso in 13th position. Oscar Mangan will take 14th ahead of Valtteri Alander, and Nicholas Laubish in 16th position had his adventures today. Dylan Scrivens will take 17th ahead of Christopher Danbeats, Toby Soriano, and Oscar Irina, who will be 20th position overall after making great progresses early on. He was fighting late on with Elias Riker, Kike Oliveira. We saw this battle, how brilliant it was towards the end. Michael Janney, Maggio Hansen. We expect a penalty at the end then for Damon Woods. That's why he drops back to 25th position. And then the drivers laps down or worse. Matthias Jensen getting caught up. The incident, of course, with Christian Lamella was enough for him to be 13 laps down come the end of the race. And out on the opening lap, Simone Maria Marcheno must bounce back at the third round of the championship, Jay. And what a place we go 1 week from today for round 3 of the championship, because we head to the Red Bull Ring, but it is the national configuration, not often run in sim racing, but it is a true test of positioning and finding the overtake.
It's going to be interesting to see how the drivers tackle this one. It's a very, very different layout to the normal Grand Prix layout. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to provide a few curveballs. Going to be very, very difficult to nail down your setup because the straight's not quite as long as normal. So it's going to be very, very entertaining. I'll tell you that. It's going to be very, very good fun, and we'll be here again next week.
We absolutely will here with SimSpeed TV. This is the place to go and watch some amazing racing action. It is not the only racing action tonight, though, ladies and gentlemen. We do have to preface that half an hour from now, we'll be jumping in with the iRacing Grand Prix series from the Hungaroring. So stay with us with SimSpeed TV. Make sure you watch that. But a massive, massive thank you has to go to everyone who has been taking a chance to look at what is some incredible racing. And, of course, you have to say a big thank you to Porsche for putting on what is an incredible qualifying format, which is going to bring out the best in all sorts of different sim races. From Jay Kennedy and myself, Jake Sperry, Lasse back might just be contender number 1 when it comes to the second stage of qualifying. He knows this first stage, a second and a first, he is absolutely flying. But the question will now be, can he maintain that? Because as is proven today, there are on any given Saturday night, 15 different sim racers who can find themselves up at the pointy end with victory. It's going to be brilliant racing next time out. The Red Bull Ring National is going to be 1 week from today. Stay with us for half an hour's time, because we're going to be jumping to the Hungaroring with the Mercedes W12 e-Performance.
This is the world's premier online racing simulation. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat from your home computer with the most realistic online motorsports experience you'll find anywhere. Race virtually in the world's biggest events with officially licensed series, cars, and tracks. From the high banks of Daytona to the blistering speeds of Indianapolis, the dirt of Eldora to the world's most legendary road courses. It's all here, and with more than 180,000 people just like you already driving, you'll always have someone to race. Ready to get behind the wheel? Sign up at iRacing.com to get started.
This is fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's got rhythm, both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taking Anderson. Anderson's up top.
Oh my god! Oh! Big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's gonna get rolled!
Second very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, there we go. Oh no! That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my god!
God, what?